Hello and welcome, I'm Maria from Sew Through Time, and this time I made a Nevers cosplay of Amalia True. When the Nevers came out this spring, I instantly fell in love with the kind of fantasy Victorian world that they had going on, and the story and especially the aesthetics of the show is amazing. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend you do. As I said, I really love the aesthetics of the show, and the clothing was amazing, and especially the clothing Amalia True's character wears. Like, I want her entire wardrobe. In episode 3, Amalia True wears this most amazing split skirt, and I've been wanting to make a split skirt for a while, and I just completely fell in love with this, and I just had to make it. Split skirts were extremely popular in the late 1890s and also in the turn of the century all the way up to 19 teens. The particular style of split skirt that Amalia is wearing is one that buttons up on both sides, and then there's a flap that goes to the other side to open up into pants. And while I can find patterns for this type of skirt in the 19 teens, I couldn't actually find a pattern for the 1890s. I have found fashion plates that show this style for the 1890s, but I couldn't find an actual pattern. And because the 19 teens skirt is already much more narrow, much more streamlined than they would have been in the turn of the century when this was set, I couldn't exactly use that pattern. So what I did was I drafted my own, and because I've never actually made any kind of split skirt, that was not necessarily the wisest choice. But more on that when I actually get to it, so let's get making.
For my basic pattern, I used the divided bicycle skirt pattern from the Standard Work on Cutting Ladies Tailor-Made Garments by S.S. Gordon. It can be found on Archive, and also it can be found reprinted as the turn of the century fashion patterns and tailoring techniques. That pattern is meant to be buttoned down the front where there's an extra pleat there, so that it hides the underside of the buttons so that it can just divide into pants. But I drafted an extra piece of a leg piece and then an extra skirt piece for the front to make that placket that she has in the skirt. For some reason, I decided not to omit the front pleat that was for the buttons, and that caused me some trouble with figuring out how the skirt was actually supposed to work. I start by pleating the cut leg pieces in the way that they are to be on the finished skirt. Historically, all the seams would be overcast by hand, but because I was lazy and this will phrase like a fiend, I'm just overcasting it with a serger. The pockets are made of a glazed cotton with a small placket of the fashion fabric at the opening. They are French seamed together. Then they're attached to an extra side front seam that I made.
Now for the crotch seam, I'm seaming the front, the side, both sides, and the flap all together.
For the life of me, I could not figure out how to put the opening in the front with a placket with the buttons and the pocket, so I just cheated and put it in the back with a regular hook and eye closure and sew the placket on by hand. And the fronts of the pocket are top stitched to keep the fabric from turning. The waist darts are sewn in place. The front skirt placket is top stitched onto the pants on the non-opening side. Then the side seams are sewn together. And then the hem of each pant leg is turned and faced with the glazed cotton, and that is top stitched by machine, but somehow I have lost that footage. Now I'm sewing the waistband on to the edge of the waist. I'm a little confused as to how this should actually go, so I'm just gonna sew it onto the right side and then I'll try it on and make sure that it's correctly, and hopefully not get this button flap in the way. Wish me luck. Yep, it seems nicely stitched. And there's a tiny bit of weird bulkiness there, but I'd say nothing too bad. And here it is, the finished skirt. All those buttons and buttonholes are also hand stitched on, but apparently I forgot to film any of that. The blouse is a modern thrift store find that I found about 10 years ago, and it just happened to be perfect for Amalia's shirt. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!